my favorite topic of all time, because I think the Washington and the Fed are mortgaging my kids' future. I have two kids, one in college, third year, 20 years old, the other one first year in high school. I think they're mortgaging their future, and there's nothing I can do about it. So the topic is U.S. national debt approaching $36 trillion. Does anyone care? And that's the title of today's Power Hour. Does anyone care? Elon Musk is tweeting quite a bit about this, which I'm going to talk about his opinion of where we are. Washington, this is horrible. Stop borrowing money and spending what you don't have. Period. Stop. I can't do that. I can't add zeros to my bank account and spend the money I don't have. It is taxpayer money. It is our money. Do not spend it frivolously. I don't know what else to say. So breaking. U.S. public debt has jumped $345 billion. I started channel like 3-4 months ago. I've been talking about this subject pretty much on every Power Hour, and I'm gonna do it until I'm blue in the face. 345 billion over the last 3 days. In 3 days, 345 billion to a record of 35.7 trillion. We're about to get to 36. And then 100 days later, we're going to be at 37. 100 days later, we're going to be at 38, because the deficit, or not deficit, U.S. debt, total U.S. debt is going up by $1 trillion every 100 days. This is regardless of who's in charge. Doesn't matter. When Trump was in charge, it went up $4 trillion. When Biden and Kamala are in charge for the last, 4 years almost now, up another $4 trillion. It's just non-ending. Stop spending the money you don't have, Washington. Since June 2023, federal debt, and by the way, in both debates, there was maybe 2 questions in total about this, which is, I think, is the most important thing that's facing us. But they go like, no, we're not going to talk about that. So since June 2023, federal debt has surged by a massive $4 trillion. What? Why? What? How? How? I know how. We just spending money we don't have. And that's because our fiscal policy is completely broken. That's Washington. And what does the Fed have to do? Fed has to print money and put it into, close that gap up. So, for example, our tax receipts are 4 trillion. Well, our budget is 6 trillion. Well, it's 2 trillion missing. Where's that going to come from? Issue the IOUs and borrow the money. That's it, right? So basically, Fed has an unlimited credit line. And who offers them that line? Themselves, right? Okay. Over the same period, U.S. GDP is up just 1.5 trillion. So you guys see what's happening here? When we used to do this, well, I'm not against debt, by the way. But debt used properly, I think, is wonderful. Debt used improperly, like these knuckleheads, is horrible. Okay? Look at the ROI on this debt that we're creating. So debt going up by 4 trillion. The reason we're doing it is to grow the GDP, get productivity out of the economy. Well, it used to be like that. If we created 1 trillion in debt, it would be like 4x or 5x. It would boost the GDP. It would boost the economy. Well, now we're spending 4 trillion to get 1.5 trillion out of it. So we're even less than 50 cents on the dollar. Okay? So the ROI on this debt that we're issuing is garbage. I mean, horrible, right? And what happens if we do going to slow down? We're in this, 70% of our GDP is consumer spending. Economy slows down. GDP right now is 27 trillion, gross domestic product. Our debt is about to go 36, so we're 130% of GDP. What if we get not recession, but slow down, and GDP goes down to 25 trillion or 24 trillion or 22 trillion? Well, that's going this way. GDP is going this way. How do you guys think? The market's going to melt up or no? I don't know. In other words, the national debt has outpaced the economic growth by 2.7 times over the last 16 months. Exactly, Kavesi Letter. Hats off to you. outside of the pandemic crisis, US federal debt has never grown so rapidly. So when people come to me and say, oh, under Trump, it grew up. I'm not a Trump or a Kamala person. I don't like either one. I'm actually libertarian, so I'm announcing it now. I just don't like the government involved in my business. And I don't think the government does anything good for their people. They probably did maybe 30 years ago. But when I showed up in this country, it was okay for a while and then just downhill. Whoever's in charge, it's just not good for the American people. So outside of the pandemic crisis, US federal debt has never grown so rapidly. What is happening here? What is happening here? We have a Washington that's out of control. Their fiscal policy is horrible, trash, and the Federal Reserve's monetary policy is trash. So we have two trash going at it, and who suffers? We suffer as the American public, because when the monetary policy follows fiscal policy, inflation gets created. When inflation gets created, it's like a tax on the average American. Go into Costco these days. Let's see what you can buy with $100. Not much.